Wow, my guest today, David Beeney, is a mental health advocate, counselor, and one of the leading global voices on mental health in the workplace. David Beeney had a very successful 30-year career in media. But during that time, he was hiding something, a secret that had tormented him for years. Eventually, in 2016, he broke his silence about his battles with mental health. It was a decision that would change his life and the lives of countless others. Today, David's business is regarded as one of the world's leading advisors on mental health in the workplace. He has worked with brands and organizations including HSBC, Google, McDonald's, F1, the NHS, Sainsbury's, and the Royal Navy. David is a qualified mental health counselor and a registered member of the British Association of Counselors and Practitioners. In 2026, he was once more recognized as one of the top global influencers in employee engagement by his peers. David's work is about helping people feel seen, supported, and understood, and giving them the tools to navigate both their personal and professional lives with more resilience. Boy, will you love this episode. If you're going through a particularly stressful or hard transitory moment in your life, then this episode is the one you should listen to. If you feel like you're struggling with your happiness, or you're going through a very hard breakup, or you're handling loss, financial stress about the future, or you're just a high school student moving into a university in another country or another continent, this talk is just going to help you understand that it's okay to not be okay, and to feel what you're feeling, and to put yourself out there, and to be vulnerable. So with that being said, here are the 3 very things you learn if you stick with me and David until the very end of this session. Number 1, the importance of being kind to others and the power that might hold when you least know it or least expect it. Number 2, the importance of being kind to others and how that can benefit you and how that can teach you the importance of other people. And lastly, David's mind-blowing journey struggling with mental health. And as a sort of anniversary here for the 18th podcast episode for the Marta podcast, I've chosen David Beeney because this week, when you're listening to this podcast, as soon as this episode goes live, it's the 10th year, a decade's anniversary of David Beeney's first public speech where he actually chose to speak up, break the silence, and speak up about his struggles of mental health and panic attacks that he had that nobody else knew, not even his ex-wife of 28 years. 10,941 days later, he broke the silence. And now, 10 years of revolutionary work. Exclusively on the Marta podcast, you get to see a man that turned his battles into mental health into a crusade to help millions others for his 10-year anniversary of breaking the silence. Hey, it's Sonia, and welcome to the Marta podcast. Just before we begin, I wanted to come on here and ask you a quick favor. Please could you double check that you subscribe to the podcast, and at any moment throughout the episode, if you're going to learn something new or feel seen and heard, rate this episode podcast 5 stars. Send this discussion to someone that you hold dear, or maybe someone that you know is going through a very hard moment in their life, as I truly believe it can help their life. In return, I promise that you'll keep getting Monday motivation from me, a new podcast episode every Monday with a better lineup of guests. David Beeney, are you ready to get smarter?
I'm ready to get smarter, Sonia.
I love it. I love it. So when I looked at your journey, I was instantly intrigued. The best way to start is just if you can talk directly with the person listening right now. If they were here with us, what would you say are the top 3 takeaways we'll talk about in today's episode?
Top 3 things I'd like to talk about, Sonia. Number 1 is the importance of being kind to yourself. Most people are far too hard on themselves. So it's understanding the value of being more self-compassionate. So kinder to yourself is number 1. Number 2 is the importance of being kind to other people and what you can achieve in life when you treat people with kindness and respect. And the third one, I spent 36 years working in media until I was 54 years old. And I had a pretty good career. At 54 years old, I decided to spend the rest of my life on a crusade to get rid of the stigma of mental health. And 10 years on, I'm more well known now for what I've done since I was 54 years old than at any other time in my life. So the reason I'm saying that's the third one is that at any stage in your life, you can achieve your dreams. Even if you haven't got off to the best start, Even if you've had a really difficult time in your teens, your early 20s, you can still start again and still achieve whatever you want to achieve. So in summary, be kind to yourself, be kind to other people, and realize that you can achieve your dreams at any day you decide to say, I'm going to start achieving my dreams. Thank you, Sonia.
I can say from just those 3 minutes of you talking about your values, we're the type of people that get along with each other. I strive and value kindness and random acts of kindness so much. I can tell we're going to have a good conversation. And to turn to the first question now, in an interview of over 2 years ago, I saw that you said publicly that you suffered for over 36 years. But at the very beginning and during those years, nobody really knew. And so I wanted to ask you, now with your book published in 2024, Breaking the Silence, what would you say is the turning point, which, yeah, you have it up there, that really made you speak up?
It's a great question. And I wish in a way I had a better story. Round about 20 years ago, I decided to train as a mental health therapist. I did that very privately. And I thought at the back end of my career, I'm just going to volunteer to be a mental health therapist 1 or 2 evenings a week. But I was still doing my main career working in media. And then in April 2016, I was a commercial director for a large organization called Autotrader. And someone in the HR team said to me, David, you know a bit about mental health, don't you? And I said, well, yes. And they said, well, next month is Mental Health Awareness Week. What we'd like you to do is do some talks in London and Manchester to our staff about mental health, because I'm sure they'd love to hear it from you. And when they put that to me, inside I'm thinking, there's no way I'm doing this because I suffer with panic attacks. But 2 days later, Sonia, I got an email saying to me, David, thank you for agreeing to do these talks in London and Manchester. Please, can you send me your slide deck? Because I'm really interested to see what you're going to talk about. And I thought, what slide deck? What am I going to talk about? So that evening, I sat at home and thought to myself, I know what I'll do. I'll talk about my secret battles with panic attacks that nobody in my life knew about. Not my ex-wife of 28 years had no idea. My mates down the pub had no idea. Nobody I worked with had any idea that I battled with panic attacks and anxiety. So on the 16th of May, 2016, so in nearly 10 years time, in 11 days time, I did these talks and spoke for the very first time about my mental health. And they changed my life. Proved to be among the best things I've ever done in my life was to out myself about my mental health. Best thing I've probably ever done apart from have my children.
So I'm curious to know now, if we carry on along with your journey, I wanted to ask you, when I first was researching your profile, if you still experience panic attacks today and what's the best way you handle them. But then I looked 30 minutes ago at this interview and you said that the best way to is to give yourself permission to have them. Can you explore that idea more and why it's so important to actually be vulnerable with yourself and acknowledge what you're going through and your feelings?
Yeah, I spent most of my career doing everything possible to avoid public speaking, even meetings like this, because of my fear of losing control of my breathing. And then for the last 10 years, I've probably delivered over 1,000 talks in sometimes very large conferences with hundreds and hundreds of people. So people have naturally said to me, how do you now avoid having panic attacks? Firstly, there's a phrase that we associate with mental health, that it's okay not to be okay. It's on the wall behind me. And I truly now accept it's okay not to be okay. Secondly, I've realized we inspire people when we share vulnerability. You're not seen as weak. You're actually seen as even stronger if you're prepared to share vulnerability. And thirdly, is my discovery of self-compassion. When I look back at my life, Sonia, I've spent far too much of it getting anxious about my anxiety. I've always been really hard on myself. I thought I had to be perfect every day. In our lives, we often talk about raising the bar. We say, right, this year I'm going to raise the bar. Well, do you know what I've done? I've lowered my bar. I haven't lowered my standards. I haven't lowered my aspirations. I've discovered the true value of self-compassion. I've tried to find a cure to my panic attacks for over 40 years. And cure's a good word to use because I've accepted I'll never be cured. I had my last panic attack doing a talk about 3 weeks ago. But I've realized these days what I do on the vast majority of occasions when I feel the demons returning. I actually say to myself, fuck it, just have one, you know. And the irony being, when I actually give myself permission to have one, I massively reduce the chances of them happening. When you discover the true value of self-compassion and you lower the bar, two things happen. One, you bring down your levels of stress because you're not putting yourself under so much pressure to achieve so much. But secondly, you become more creative and more productive because when you can function with a more relaxed state of mind, you get greater clarity of thought. And when you get greater clarity of thought, you get more things done. So my discovery of being kinder to me has, I've now got probably the best mental well-being of my entire life. And secondly, I'm achieving more than I've ever achieved because I've lowered the bar. So I said right at the beginning today, my discovery of being kinder to me has been the best thing ever. The best thing ever.
Mm-hmm. Just allow yourself permission.
Everybody listening out there, don't be so bloody hard on yourself. You know, we've got to learn to love ourselves more. Be more self-compassionate. Lower your bar. You're not lowering your standards or aspirations. You're just getting yourself into a more optimum state of mind to clear the mind, to see things more clearly, and to do great things.
I completely agree. We are our harshest critics. I had a podcast with Ashley Leeds. He's the 15-minute LinkedIn guy, super positive, super happy. And he sat down with me and we talked about imposter syndrome. And this one question he said stuck with me, and I've used it as my mantra ever since. We so often focus on the negative sides of our lives and what's the worst thing that can happen. Replace that one word with what's the best that can happen. And that made me wire my brain to look for what's the best that can happen, the positives. And I've suddenly become less anxious, more happy to go anywhere and do anything and challenge myself to try harder things.
Sonia, there's a lady in the US who does very big talks to large audiences. And every now and again, she has a panic attack during a talk. And when she has one, she has to sit down and get herself together again before she starts. When she completes a session where she's had a panic attack, she gets a standing ovation. When she completes a talk where she doesn't have a panic attack, she just gets polite applause. And she said recently, she always feels under pressure to have a panic attack because when she shows more vulnerability, she gets greater engagement and love from her audience. So I tell myself these days, the worst thing that can happen in one of my talks is I have a panic attack, because all that's going to do is authenticize that this David Beeney's for real. He's not someone just trying to commercialize and make the best out of mental health. This guy really does suffer with panic attacks. And now he's trying to share his own stuff to help other people.
It's a universal experience, whether we're having a bad boss or even younger on, bad teacher, or it's the first time, you're usually the good kid in class like I was, and it's the first time you spent a really late afternoon and you didn't get a chance to do your homework or your assignment. That's a very intimidating and overwhelming point in life. If you were to translate mental health, what it means to an 8-year-old even listening to this right now in primary school, what's your definition of it?
I think we get too hung up on definitions for mental health. Another lovely word alongside kindness is being happy. In some ways, your mental health is how happy are you really with your life? Because all your mental health is what's going on in here and what your thoughts are day to day. And when you've got good things going on in life and you're happy with your friendships and you're happy with your family and you're happy with where you live, then you're going to have good mental health. If you're going through a period where you're bottling things up because you're scared to talk to someone and tell them how you're really feeling about things, if you're not sleeping at night and therefore because you're worrying about things and you're getting tireder, the less sleep you have, again, when you're tired, the world seems a more difficult place to deal with. So I think we get hung up on definitions. Mental health is sort of a combination of how happy are you, how energized you feel, and how much you're looking forward to, the next few weeks. That's what your mental health is. So whether you're 8 years old or you're 18 years old or you're 58 years old, it should mean the same to all of us. And sometimes what we need to do, we don't do this often enough. We don't sit down and think, how happy am I really? And when you do that, be really honest with yourself. And if you're not happy, Sonia, you'll know why you're not happy, because no one knows you like you. And it's a case of not brushing things under the carpet. It's a case of thinking, I know why I'm not happy, and I'm going to do something about it. Now, sometimes, sadly, people aren't motivated enough to do something about their happiness. And that's when you need to be brave enough to talk to someone like myself, a professional, and say, I'm not very happy at the moment. These are the reasons I'm not happy. Can you help me? Because in some ways, that's what my job is as a therapist. Thank you.
I think also today we get so hung up in the noise around us. There's always news on something new in the social media. We always feel like we're running behind and we have to constantly catch up with everything around us. What would you say is a very good tactic or thing to help you actually slow down, to actually acknowledge your feelings in the present moment when you can get lost in the to-do list or the titles around you?
Again, it goes back to me saying, lower the bar. Don't put yourself under so much pressure to achieve things. I'm a great list writer. Every day in my life, I write lists, and I love crossing things off my list. One of the big steps forward I made in my life, Sonia, was you won't be able to see it on here, but I used to have just things I had to do today, and the list would be a very long list. And when you've got a very long list of things you have to do, often you do the ones on there that you like to do, or the ones that look easy, and the ones that you really need to do, you put off for another day. But what happens every day is you always put those ones off because you don't fancy doing them. A number of years ago, rather than having a list of things to do, I wrote must today. So I only write on here the things that I have to do today. My list suddenly went from being that long to only this long. And when you've got a short list, fun enough, you get them all done. So for all of you out there listening who like to write lists, only write on your list for today what you have to do today, because you'll find you'll then get those things done. But what you have to do with the other things that come off that list is put them onto another day and make sure you're still achieving your deadlines. And for those of you who don't like writing lists at all, that's okay, because we're all different. My wife hates lists, but sometimes you do need to write some things down somewhere just so you can relax more at night. I'm one of those people, Sonia. I have to have a plan for tomorrow before I go to bed, because then I sleep better. In 1991, so how many years ago is that? 35 years ago. I said to someone who was working for me, if ever you come into work first thing in the morning and I haven't got a list for my plan for that day, I will give you £5 in English money. Now, that was in 1991. The reason I knew I was safe in saying that is I never go to bed without doing it. So I never had to give anyone any money ever in my life, because I'm very disciplined like that, very disciplined. But yeah, thank you, Sonia.
And you can contradict me here, David, but I think looking back on your struggles, I don't think you ever felt held back from your full potential, but actually your journey made you shaped you into the person that you are today. And I wanted to know, over, let's say, the whole span of it, if there's a particular moment that really stands out that acts as a turning point in your life that changed the way you view yourself or the world around you.
Yeah, this is it's a great question, and it's a very, very interesting answer, because I can divide my my career, if you like, into three parts. When I was 24 years old, my career had been going very well. I was a very confident young man. I got into the world of sales, and then I had a really bad panic attack at work, and I had it 2 days in a row, and I thought my career was over at 24. At 24, I thought I'm going to have to leave my current job. No one's ever going to employ me. The next 15 years, I had an amazing time. My career really took off, and I had a secret weapon. And my secret weapon was my battles with mental health. I'll try and make sense of this really quickly. Back in the mid 1980s, if I was a trainer then, I just got a job as a trainer. Back in the mid 1980s, training was really boring. People would just have what they called overhead projectors and acetates, and they'd talk at you all day long. And it was really, really boring. And I thought to myself, I can't do that. Because if I'm standing in front of a classroom and everyone's staring at me and I'm doing all the talking, I will have a major panic attack. So back in the mid 80s, I decided to completely change the whole way we engage people. And I thought, I'm going to take myself away from being the center of attention. And I'm going to get the people in the classroom doing the work. So I put people into breakout groups. I got people presenting back to me. I may have taken people out of their comfort zone, but what I did was I massively enhanced the experience of the trainee. Within months, I was building a reputation as a very good trainer, a guy ahead of my time.
Yeah.
Off the back of that, I got fast-tracked into senior management. And again, when I became a senior manager, it wasn't all about me, because I wanted to take the focus of attention off of myself. And I gave a lot of autonomy and control to the people working for me. Again, I fell upon a style of leadership that was very effective. And by 35 years old, 9 years after I thought my career was never going to get going, I was the managing director of a daily newspaper in the UK. And my career was going amazing. And when I look back, the reason it was all going amazing was the way I was trying to hide my panic attacks was making me get more engaging with the people I was working with.
Yeah.
By the time I got to my early 40s, because I was still trying to hide my panic attacks, my mental health did catch up with me and I lost my way. I never, for the next 15 years, fulfilled my true potential. I took on safe jobs. Because I realized the more senior you got, the more you had to present to large groups of people. Yeah. And I went into hiding. And then fast forward to 10 years ago when I outed myself about my mental health, which has been the best thing I've ever done. And I've now had an amazing 10 years. So when I talk about there's three parts to it. The first part of my career, my mental health really made me the person that I was and very successful. Then because I didn't have the courage to put my hand up and say, look, I've got something to share with people, I'm trying to hide my mental health. I then lost my way. And then when I had the courage in 2016 to say, this is me really, this is my story, it all turned round again. When, my mental health has played a really big part in defining my career. The good, the not so good, and the great at the end. Yeah.
You made me think about two things here, David, and I'm going to share the first one that's been lingering sort of ever since we started the talk. I'm moving to Ireland for next year for my studies. One thing I completely love about the language is in English, we usually say I'm sad and we let our feelings define ourselves. But in Irish, and I love this so much, is that you say sadness is within me or these feelings are passing by me. I think the way the language is structured is making you accept your feelings and is making you accept it to be more open to other people about how you feel because you acknowledge that you don't let those feelings define who you are in this small present moment. It's not your whole journey. It's just a transitory feeling. A lot of people in today's world suffer with burnout because they let their feelings take over who they are for longer than just the present moment. What would you say are the first signs that are often misunderstood or, as you say, put down under the carpet and left alone until much later when it becomes serious?
A couple of things come to mind, Sonia. Firstly, there's lots of statistics around mental health. In the UK, the most commonly used statistic is 1 in 4. It's plastered all over the websites of the key mental health charities. When I first put a slide deck together about mental health, people said to me, where are your statistics? People like to read statistics. And I said, please take this in the right spirit. But most statistics I read about mental health are complete bullshit. No one knew about me for nearly 40 years. How many more people are out here now like me across the world who are struggling and suffering in silence? So we don't know how many people experience some form of mental health challenge. I'm trying to change mindset around mental health. I'm trying to normalize it. I don't talk about 1 in 4 or 1 in 6. I talk about 1 in 1. Everyone listening to me now has physical health, and we have mental health as well. Some days my physical health could be better. Other days my mental health could be better. So firstly, with what you said just now, I'm trying to normalize this topic. Mental health, we all have days when we're struggling a bit. We have a lot to deal with in life these days.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're worried about a health issue. Sometimes you're worried about a relationship issue. Sometimes you're worried about money. All of that's your mental health. Sometimes you don't sleep great because you've got a lot going on in your head. That's your mental health. Some days it's difficult to focus and concentrate on stuff to do with an assignment or something because you've got a lot going on. That's your mental health. So because we all have mental health and we all have days when we're struggling, that's why I guess it's difficult to know, is this becoming serious? Is this something I should be worrying about? Now, Sonia, I want to introduce you to my frog.
There it is. Yeah.
Now, Sonia, if I drop a frog into a boiling pot of water, not this plastic one, a real one, what happens to our lovely little frog?
It will try and jump out, get as quick as possible outside the burning pot.
Correct. Apparently, now promise me you won't try this at home. The frog lives every single time because, as you said, the shock of hitting the boiling water forces them into immediate action and they manage to jump out and live every single time. Let me ask you, Sonia, in contrast, if we put a frog into a cold pot of water and we put them on the very lowest temperature on the cooker, the very lowest temperature on the hob, what happens to our lovely little frog?
It will stay there and it will just get accustomed and think it's getting more warm and it's enjoying its life until it won't notice that it's boiling.
Sonia, you're good. Sadly, the frog doesn't realize they're cooking. They leave it too long to get out and they very, very slowly boil to death. Now, this is burnout. This is burnout. Things heat up around you in your life very, very slowly, and you don't realize you're cooking. Now, frogs are very intelligent animals. You'd like to think if they knew they were cooking, they'd jump out. Everyone listening to me now is really intelligent, but we tend to ignore the signs of burnout. The signs of burnout being low energy, not sleeping, inability to concentrate. A classic one is when you suddenly stop enjoying things you've always enjoyed doing. Now, for all of those of you listening now who are thinking, well, I'm experiencing some of that, don't panic. That's okay, because life isn't easy. But if you're experiencing some of that on a sustained basis, that's when you need to ask yourself, am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough physical exercise? Am I doing enough for me? In other words, have I got the balance right in life? Is my diet conducive to good well-being? Am I surrounded by quality people in my life that make me feel good about myself? Have I got lots of things coming up that I'm excited about? Because those are things that we should be doing to protect ourselves from burnout. So just to summarize again, the real danger, the big signs of burnout are constant issues with sleeping, which can lead you to have really low energy and poor concentration levels. And you generally stop enjoying things that you've always enjoyed doing. So if you notice one of your friends always used to love playing, netball or always loved going out running, always loved going to clubs, and all of a sudden they stop doing things they always enjoyed doing, could be a sign of burnout.
I mean, I listen to you and I think everyone has gone through this before. Everyone has got into the habit of staying late one night and saying the same the next day and just saying they'll put it off for the following day. I'll get into bed quicker. I'll make sure I set my environment to propel me to actually go ahead and do it, and they don't do it. And especially now as it's exam season, I find it again resurface for me. Just spending hours with the book up, open, and luckily I do have my mom to come and jolt me out of just the intense locking in. But I see so many people around me that don't have a clear foundation, whether it's interior and internal with their goals or habits or minds, or external, if they've got friends or family that can notice when they're not so great. What would you say to people that do feel like that, are lonely or are going through a huge transition cycle, like moving to university in a foreign continent, in a foreign country they've never been to, where they don't know anyone?
I guess there's, again, a couple of things spring to mind. I'm often asked, Sonia, can you measure your own mental health? And I think people expect me to say no, but I think you can. Because I think I might have said it earlier. Nobody knows you like you. No one knows you like you. And sometimes you need to sit down and really be honest with yourself about how you're doing. I was in a very bad place back in 2014. I was going through a divorce. My career was falling apart. And I sat down one day and thought, life's got to be better than this. And I thought, what are the different components of my life that make up my overall happiness? And I got a blank sheet of paper, literally. And I sat there and thought, what makes up my overall happiness? And eventually I came up with 6 things. So what I do every now and again, I give each of those 6 things a score out of 10. And that gives me an overall score for my overall well-being, happiness, whatever word you want to use to it. Now, I will share what my 6 are, but that doesn't mean that these will be the same for you or many of the people listening today. For me, my 6 are my main relationship in life, my family, my sense of purpose, my financial well-being, my physical health, and my mental health. So in other words, if I'm happy with my main relationship I have or my status, if my children, in my case, and my parents are okay, if I've got purpose in my life, which is often associated with your work, not always, if I've got money in the bank, if I'm physically fit and mentally okay, then life should be okay. And it just gives me a way of checking in on myself to see how I'm doing. And the other way is if you're, for example, a young person just going to another country, like you'll be going off to Ireland to study and so on. I also have 7 questions I ask myself about how I look after myself day to day. And I sort of said them just now, but I'll say them again for you now and for everyone listening to this session. Ask yourself, am I getting good regular sleep? Because sleep is really important to your well-being. If you're tired, the world will feel a darker place. Number 2, there's a definite link between exercise and how you feel about yourself. So we all need to find time for exercise. Means different things to different people. Some people go running, some people just go walking in the woods. It doesn't matter what you do. You need to get some exercise. The third thing is that we're all unique human beings, but we all need me time, whatever that means to you. Some people like in their me time to do nothing. Other people like to play music.
Yeah.
Other people like just to go for a walk.
Mm-hmm.
We all need me time, and you need to understand what your me time is. The next one is speaking as a therapist. Most people are in therapy because of something they've never talked about. So sometimes in life, we need to ask ourselves, am I holding on to something? Because if you hold on to something, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. And most of my people in therapy are in therapy because of something they've never, ever talked about. So, us men in particular are not always the best at talking about things.
Mm-hmm.
We all need things to look forward to. It's a simple one. It's one of the reasons the pandemic was bad for our mental health. There was nothing in the diary. So, for example, when you do go to Ireland, you need to have stuff in the diary about when you're coming back home to see your mum and stuff like that. Yeah. Because if you're having a tough day, you can think, well, at least I've got that coming up. Who we surround ourselves with in our life has a massive impact on our well-being. So you also have to ask yourself, am I surrounded with the right people? People that make me feel good about me, people that give me good energy, people that love and respect me. And get rid of anyone in your life that constantly is chipping away at you. Speaking again as a therapist, Sonia, I've got too many clients in therapy because they stay in a relationship with someone for too long. Yeah. And years later, they're paying someone like me trying to recover their self-worth. The last one on the list, I think, is your diet. What you eat and drink also has an impact on your mental well-being. It's, I'm not saying we can't have, sort of some beer and wine at the weekends and takeaway food and barbecues, and because we need to treat ourselves. But there's certainly been times in my life I've drunk way too much. I've eaten a lot of crap. But the moment I start eating and drinking healthier, I feel better about myself. So again, we do have to own this where we can, Sonia. We can own our own mental well-being. We can own our dreams and our aspirations, because generally, if we own it, then we can achieve whatever we want to achieve. If you're expecting other people to do it for you, generally in life, it won't happen.
And at the end of the day, you are in control, whether you're conscious about it or whether you surrounded yourself in a bubble with not the like-minded people that you should be surrounding yourself with, and it's being put off and your light has started fading away. And I think I want to link this into imposter syndrome, because hearing you talk about it makes me realize that I am a people pleaser. And a lot of times I know some people I started talking to are no longer matching my values or matching my needs. And there's people drainers and people boosters, people that give you energy after you stop talking to them. And sometimes you can start with a person that gives you a lot of energy, but you have to break them off. And there's a lot of people that feel like they're not enough or guilty about taking those decisions, even though they know it's for their better good. How would you approach that to someone that would say the same? They find themselves in the same issue. It
does
happens way too
happen.
often.
It does happen too often. I look back at my life now, and I've achieved the best things in my life when I've had the right people around me, people that make me believe in me. Earlier on, I talked about one of my main goals of this session today was the value of being kinder to other people. When you're kinder to other people around you, they will all achieve much more as well. There was one stage early in my career where someone said to me at work, "The problem with you, David, is you're too nice." And I used to hate that, but I didn't say anything about it. The same person who said that to me a couple of months later said to me, "David, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Go on then." They said, your team at work, when you go out the office, they work, if anything, harder than when you're in the office. When I go out the office, my team do bugger all. How do you achieve that? And I said, well, maybe I'm just too nice. Yes, I thought, come on.
Yeah.
How we treat other people will not just determine their success, it will determine our own success as well. Like you, I am a people pleaser. And there are times when I need to rein that in a bit, because you can't please all the people all the time. And I still am guilty sometimes of saying yes to everybody. And then my wife will say to me, "Why have you said yes to that and that and that?" Because we can't do all of that.
Yeah.
And then I'm in a horrible situation where I've got to let someone down. And I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. But overall, it's not a bad thing being a people pleaser. It's not a bad thing as long as we get the balance right with it. So I said right at the beginning today, one of my key messages today is about being kind to ourselves, but let's also be kind to people around us. Kind isn't being soft, by the way. Don't mix up kind with being soft to other people. Kind is being honest. Kind is being respectful. It's not about being soft, and I'm not trying to turn everyone today into fluffy bunnies. Couldn't do that if I tried. Kindness is being respectful and honest. Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about mental health and how we can discover if we have it or if we are in a bad state in life. But what if we know someone that does feel like that and we feel happy and they come to us and confess, that maybe they've been holding it back for a couple of years without us knowing? Someone that comes to you, chooses you to open up about their feelings. What should we say and what should we avoid saying?
Okay. The first thing we should say, and bear in mind, there's thousands of different scenarios. So I'll just give you a framework, but I'll make it sound a little bit scripted. If you came to me, Sonia, and said, "Look, David, can I tell you privately that I'm really struggling at the moment with my mental health?" The first thing I should say to you is, "Sonia, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me." Because by saying thank you, I think I'm putting your mind at ease about the way I'm going to react. And by saying thank you, I'm almost saying to you, it's a privilege you're sharing this with me. Thank you. The next bit is the obvious bit, is to really listen to what you're saying. Don't judge you, be empathic, be sensitive, and really give you a really good listening experience. You've had the courage to share this with me, give you the respect to really listen. The next bit will surprise some people because it doesn't initially sound very kind. But what I should say to you next is, Sonia, thanks again for sharing this with me. I do care, but I'm not qualified to deal with this. Now, what we need to do is to get you to talk to a professional. Too many people at that stage for Sonia, they try and get too involved with their friends. They try and fix them. Please take this in the right spirit, everybody. It took me 5 years to qualify. It's still not an easy job. You are not there to fix your friends and your mates. You are there to create relationships with each other where you feel you can trust each other. You're there to listen, and you're there to signpost someone to get professional help. And the last part of the framework for today is that and this was the bit I wasn't very good at when I look back at my life. You're not there to fix people, but you are there to stay on the journey with them. So in other words, what I say to you at the very end of the conversation is, Sonia, thanks again for talking to me today. I do care. So let's meet up for a coffee next week, not to fix you, but to make sure that you've chosen to contact your doctor or a therapist and to stay on that journey with you until I know you're in a much better place. Mm-hmm. When I look back at my life, too often I gave people some advice about what to do, but then I got busy and I moved on.
Yeah.
Trust me, if one of your friends says to you, look, I know I'm not in a good place at the moment, I promise you I'll get some help, they probably won't. It's been tough enough to talk to you. The thought of escalating that to another level is generally one step too far. So that's just a framework that people can follow. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you, David. And I want to shift you now to your book, Breaking the Silence, and pitch it out to the people listening, hearing this conversation right now. What would you say in 60 seconds? It's a challenge I'm going to give to you if you're up for it. What would you say is the best takeaway you wish readers to get away from it? And if they haven't heard about it, why should they pick it up?
My book is a combination of two things. It's called Breaking the Silence because I broke my silence after it was 10,849 days of not talking about my mental health. And it talks about in much more depth, I guess, what I've shared with you on here today. So yes, it's my own story, but it's far from a biography because I'm not that famous. I'm not my own backside. It's also advises workplaces on how they should be dealing with mental health in workplaces. So I think it should be a good read for anyone who's experienced any form of mental health challenges whatsoever. But equally, it really helps in the workplace, the best way of dealing with mental health. And yeah, that's me, not looking so happy as I am today. Thank you, Sonia.
David, I've got 4 questions up for you. If now's the best time to move to the Smarter Podcast traditions. My first one is my favorite, where I ask my last guest to leave a question for the next one. And so my last guest left over the question of what is one thing that teenagers can do to break the silence and build a successful career moving forwards?
What's to be kinder to themselves? It's to lower their bar and you'll achieve more. So I want everyone who's listening to this to seriously think, what can I do to become kinder to myself and make it happen? It will change your life.
My second one is around the world of books. As you can see, I'm a huge book fan. I've got a big library behind me. What would you say are the top 2 books that completely changed your perspective on life or helped you get out of a darker spot?
I've got a confession, Sonia. I read so few books. I'm not a book reader. I'm someone who's far more likely to watch videos. The way I'll answer that today, because my favorite film of all time was Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was one of the greatest human beings ever to live this planet, whatever religion you are. And when I think about, I've never really thought about this, why I love that film so much. He proved how one little man could achieve so much through kindness. He was one of the kindest people who's ever lived on this planet. So if I can answer that today by just talking about the film Gandhi. Yeah, I love it.
There you are, my first exception with a movie, and I'm a huge movie fan. My third one takes you back in time to when you were my age. So if you got to speak to your 18-year-old self one more time, knowing where you are now, what would you wish to tell him, young David?
If I can slightly tweak the question,
Go for it.
when I was 24 was when I had my major panic attacks at work. And I didn't realize that for the next 36 years, I wouldn't talk to anybody about them. I wish, in many ways, I'd have had the courage when I was younger to open up and just share my whole experience around anxiety and panic attacks. Some people would say to me, but David, if you hadn't have gone on that journey, you wouldn't be the person you are today. So in some ways, I don't have any regrets. We shouldn't really have regrets in life. It's about what we do moving forward, because we can't change what's happened in the past. But it would have been very interesting if in 1986, I'd have shared my story then, as opposed to waiting all those years.
I'm really curious because you talk about the importance of kindness and how important it is to give back. If there's one person in your life that you met that changed the trajectory and, let's say, showed you kindness when you really needed it most and it stuck with you, and from then on you wanted to give back because you noticed the importance of it and the power it can have, like just smiling to people.
It's how the book starts, funny enough. When I was, this would have been when fairly soon after I joined Auto Trader, England were playing a big World Cup game that night. And what we did to help the staff was we put some money behind the bar of a local pub. And we put some food on, and we thought we'd have a team building evening. And I was chatting to a guy that evening, and I noticed at half time he went home. He didn't stay for the second half, which was quite unusual because it was a big England football match. What we didn't know, Sonia, he went home to take his own life. None of us had any idea how he was struggling. He was surrounded by friends that night, and he was a very popular guy called Ben. But he must have been so lonely. You know, you can sometimes in life be surrounded by so many lovely, wonderful people, but still feel incredibly lonely. And Ben went home that night, and we never saw him again because he took his own life. And that changed my life, because after that, I thought, we can't have other people like Ben, a young man at the beginning of his career, not feeling that you can open up and talk about your mental well-being. So in many ways, Ben, it was a number of years later that I finally talked about my mental health. But when I decided to write my story, the very first thing I wrote was about Ben, because we can't have young people or people of any age in a workplace feeling they can't share with people that really care about them how they're really feeling. So, yeah, I'd like to sort of devote my answer to Ben, young Ben. Thank you, Sonia.
Last of all, I want to take you back to how we started off our episode with you talking directly to the person listening right now. Bearing in mind everything you've shared to me, if there's one message you could say without knowing them, who they are behind their screen or in their headphones, listening, talking to them right now, what would it be?
What I'd like to say, everyone listening to me today, is that I'm for real. I really care about people, particularly young people, and I'm on a real mission to break the silence around mental health. If any of you listening whatsoever want to get in contact with me confidentially, please feel free, you can do so. I get back to absolutely everybody who ever contacts me. You can find me on LinkedIn very easily, or you can drop me an email at davidbeeney@breakingthesilence.co.uk, or you can contact me via my website. But I mean it. If any of you out there are struggling at the moment and you just can't talk to anybody, you can contact me, and I will point you in the right direction and do the best I can. And I absolutely mean that. Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, David Beeney, for being on the Smarter podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And I can't wait to see what you're up to the next couple of years, because you're in the trajectory of changing the lives of millions, as your subheading says.
Thank you, Sonia. It's been a real privilege to be on your podcast today. And if ever I'm in Ireland, I'll buy you a pint of Guinness.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Well, that was it. I hope you enjoyed my podcast episode with David Beeney, who now, just as we head into this very important moment for exams, or maybe you just finished exams and get a chance to breathe, I want to get you back to your center and your core, to the worthy person that you are. Because if you've just passed your exams, or if you're just in the midst of cramming everything in, or you just completed them, then I want to draw your attention back to who you are as a person. First of all, whether you do have your results or not, that you truly do matter, that I truly do believe in your ability to create the life of your dreams, and to draw back down your attention to the importance of the very core habits and traits that you should focus on: your diet, your sleep, your relationships with people, family, friends, romantic relationships, whatever they may be. If you're not feeling the best, that's okay. Remember that David is always here for you, and take him up on his advice if that's something that you feel like you're going through right now. Just know you're not alone. Your voice matters. And reach out for professional help if you are going through hard moments in your life. Thank you so much for wanting to listen to the Smarter Podcast. I'm Sonia Marta, your host, and you've just listened to episode 80 of the Smarter Podcast. I wish you the best week ahead, and I can't wait to see you here next week to see what you've been up to. Take care. Bye-bye.